What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Cards and Coffee, and today we're going to be digging into one of the funnest decks of the format. I've been testing out so many different decks. The format is so fun right now, and in my testing, I have come across this deck, and honestly, I've had so much fun playing it. In a format full of Despia, Sword Soul, and even Punk Therion running around, this deck falls perfectly in line with what's running around in the meta today. And honestly, not only does it make an amazing first turn board, but can break boards just as easily. Now, if this is your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing. This channel's been growing way faster than I ever thought it would. And of course, if you're already subscribed, like the video and turn on the notification bell. That way, when I start posting all these other deck profiles I'm about to be putting up, you guys get notified right away. But first, before we dig into all this today, please go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. That way you guys can sit down and tune in. Let's do this. Alright, so today we're going to be digging into the ABC deck. I guess you could call it ABC, Adventure, Therion, Pile. I don't know what you'd really call this deck, but I'm just going to call it ABC. I think this deck is a lot of fun. It's very straightforward and easy to learn, but there is a lot of really cool combos that you can use to not only set up a crazy first turn board, but even break them going second, and that's what I love about this deck. My current deck list is within a few cards of what I think I would play if I were to take this to an event, but by all means, if you guys have been playing this deck as well, comment down below, let me know all the cool tech cards you guys have been playing as well, because really, even though I've put a good amount of time into this deck, I still think there is a lot of room for this deck to get even crazier. But that being said, starting things off, I think it's pretty straightforward. Of course, we're going to be playing the ABCs. I am currently on 2A, 2B, and 2C. I don't think this is any shock. I think there's been a few deck lists that have recently topped some of the regionals, and I think they were all playing a 2-2-2 line. I've seen some people consider playing 3 Buster Drake, and honestly, I've even seen people play 9 pieces, but I really don't think you need to go that route. I think 2-2-2 is the perfect ratio. In case you're new to the deck, they are all union monsters, and they all have effects when they're sent from field to grave. A lets you add one of the unions back from grave to hand. B searches any union from deck to hand. And then, of course, C allows you to summon a union from hand. Obviously, you need all 3 pieces on the field or in the grave to summon your boss monster, the Buster Dragon. But really, the utility this little engine adds to your deck is actually pretty good at spamming link monsters or even rank 4s as well. And not only that, they also have cool effects when they are equipped to something. They also protect them from a certain form of card effect. A will protect your monster from monster effects, B from spells, and C from traps. Normally you wouldn't think that to come up, but actually in this deck, that's pretty dang relevant, I'm not gonna lie. We are playing one more union monster, of course, the Union Driver. You're playing this in any ABC deck right now, or really ever since this card has come out. This card basically means Union Hanger is a 1-card buster. It's really amazing. It has the effect to, when it's equipped as a Union monster, you can banish it to equip any other Union to a different monster you control. The reason this card is so good is because Union Hanger has the downside that the monster you equip with its effect to one of your monsters can't special summon itself from the spell and trap zone, and Union Driver is actually the way we get around this. So simply activate a hanger, search a piece, summon it to the field, equip the driver, and then use the driver to equip a different piece from deck to hand. And now there's no restriction on the summoning. Simply just summon whatever you equip to the field, and that's a link 2, that's a rank 4. There's so many different things you can do, and again, all these effects are going to trigger once you start link summoning, allowing you to search and special summon and recycle cards fairly easily. Now, the main reason I love this deck is the fact that you get to play a small little Therion engine. We are playing 2 Therion King Regulus. I've tested this at 3, and I've even tested a heavier Therion engine as well, and I really love the Therions as a whole, and I've been trying to fit them in so many different decks. But right now, as far as space is concerned and consistency, I found just playing the 2 Regulus is good enough. You play so many machines, so this card is very easy to make live. And again, you have the field spell that can also recycle it. In case you don't know, Regulus has the effect where you can target a machine in the grave. You get to special it from hand and then equip whatever you targeted. Again, this is really great when you target one of the pieces because either the piece can special summon itself to extend, or you also give Regulus that added protection from monster spells or traps, so that's pretty dang cool. The main reason we're playing this though is it is a Omni Negate. It's really great because it doesn't negate the activation, which is really relevant in the format right now because every single branded deck right now is revolved around Branded Loss, which basically prevents your opponent from negating the activation of the spell cards or responding in the window of the summon. So something like Griffin Rider in the adventure package actually can't respond to the fusion spells while Loss is up, whereas Regulus can freely negate something because it does not negate the activation. It's super relevant. Speaking of the adventure package, of course we're playing that as well. We have no normal summon effects to activate in this deck. Of course, we're going to be playing 3 Water Enchantress. This is just the best way to get your engine online. It's also a free extender, great discard fodder. There are so many things you can do with this, and I love it for that reason. In addition, of course, we're going to be playing the Griffin Rider, like I mentioned, just a great piece to throw out first turn, and also it's pretty good at breaking boards. If you know your opponent has something that you might want to negate, it could definitely force out a lot of interaction. Now, another piece to the adventure package that I've been playing in this deck is the new Illegal Knight. I think this card is really, really good. Very similar to Griffin Rider, it can summon itself while you control a token or no monsters. And then while you have a token, it has the quick effect where you can target 2 cards your opponent controls. You'll give control of the Illegal Knight to your opponent, and then the other 2 cards get returned to hand. This is really great at breaking Sword Soul boards and even playing into the Despia deck. There are a lot of chain links that Despias have that can really make this card hard to resolve, but we have so many different ways to kind of force those interactions out first, and then Illegal Knight can just come out, clean up the mess, and it'll also prevent Mirror Jade from triggering its graveyard effect. So this card is amazing. Not only that, if you already had the Griffin Rider, then obviously you could just search the Illegal Knight. You'll still summon out the Rider, and then of course you can leave the Illegal Knight in your hand because again, the summoning effect is a quick effect, so you can choose when you want to throw it out on the field. Obviously this deck plays Dracoback, which is an amazing card at breaking boards as well, but having the additional Illegal Knight in deck to break boards even faster makes this engine that much better. For the last monsters I'm playing, I'm actually only playing 2 hand traps this time around, well, a total of 6. I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just being the most generic hand trap in the game right now, being able to stop Branded Fusion because again it doesn't negate the activation, which is extremely relevant, and of course trading for any of the powerful search effects or cards that tutor out monsters from the deck is always really good, and the last hand trap of the deck is 3 copies of DD Crow. DD Crow right now is actually a very versatile hand trap. There is basically something you can hit in every matchup right now, and some matchups are even hit harder more than others. Obviously, DD Crow can hit stuff like Vashuda, Ashuna in the Sword Soul matchup. You could even hit the Boxia line, and of course there's Golden Lord, Sky Striker Ray, but mainly since Despia literally makes up 50% of the meta right now, this is the best card to draw as your 6th card to prevent that Branded in Red going off and getting your field Chimera. All in all, I've even tested this list without hand traps, and it works perfectly fine, but I think if I had to play hand traps, I would probably opt to play these. So that's it for the monsters. Nothing too crazy. It's really just a couple of ABC pieces, the adventure package, and the Therions, with a couple of hand traps thrown in. And I honestly think that's what makes this deck so great. It's super consistent, and really, at the end of the day, your worst hands is going to be breaking on ABC pieces. But outside of that, you have 2 really powerful engines in the game right now that this deck gets to abuse freely. Moving on to the spells, we have a good amount of field spells. First being the Union Hanger, which again on activation adds any of your pieces to hand. And like I mentioned earlier, it can equip a Union from deck as well, which is super relevant for protection or even combo's sake. After the Union Hanger, we are playing 3 of the Therion Disc Coliseum. This is the searcher for the Therion engine, basically Regulus. But the thing that's so amazing about this card is not only is your deck going to put up a really good first turn board, but it's going to be so hard for your opponent to crack if you end with Disc Coliseum on the field, because not only will it protect your cards from battle, but if ever anything's destroyed by battle, you can start recycling Therions from grave. All in all, I think this card is really crazy. and of course it adds a lot of consistency. Now I am playing one more field spell, and some of you might get a little upset at me, but I think this card is truly insane in the format right now, and that is the one copy of Mystic Mine. Right now there are barely any decks that are prepared to run into Mystic Mine at least game 1, and even game 2 and 3 you could opt to side more. This is basically a cold wave for all your opponent's monsters, and we play 42 cards, so you will outgrind some of the 40 card decks, but really you have 6 other field spells in your deck, making it super easy to turn this off whenever you're ready to OTK. And again, it's just one of those cards that, while it's not the funnest card to play against, if your opponent doesn't respect it, you are gonna get a free win. This card is insane. Now, since I'm hyping this card up, obviously you could run more copies of it, but since we have the one terraforming and even the set rotation in deck, this just makes it to where technically we're already playing 3 copies without lessening the consistency of the deck. That's it for the field spell lineup for this deck. Nothing too crazy, but I think this is what makes the deck so crazy. Obviously, we have the adventure spells as well. I'm opting to play 2 Rites of Aramesir, 1 of the Fateful Adventure, and 1 Dracoback. You could easily play 3 of this, and there is a couple cards I would consider cutting in this deck. Again, it is 42, so you do have options. But at the end of the day, I had to pick between either 3 Enchantress or 3 Rites. And Enchantress can just recycle Rites from the grave, so in my eyes, it was kind of a no-brainer. If I had to pick one to run at 2, Rites was my choice. Adventure and Dracoback are all staple things that basically every Fateful Adventure engine is going to be running, but I will say since we are running the Illegal Knight, Dracoback becomes very crazy because now not only are you going to give your opponent that Illegal Knight, but you could bounce it back to hand, that way you can use it to disrupt afterwards. This is a pretty devastating combo. All in all, the adventure package is obviously really amazing. Great disruption, great board-breaking skills, but it's also a great way to establish some discard fodder. That way, if you have pieces in your hand that you need to get engraved, you can easily ditch it with Fateful Adventure. For the next spell card, I am playing 2 copies of Unauthorized Reactivation. I've seen some lists play 3 of this card, and you definitely could, but it is a hard once per turn, and we have so many copies of Union Hanger already, which basically that's what this card is also. So sometimes this is a little bit dead, but there are some really crazy combos this contributes to, and at worst, it is another weak version of Union Hanger. So all in all, I definitely think you need to play this card, but whether or not you should be playing 3, that's kind of up in the air for debate to me. One thing that is really cool, the fact that it is a quick play spell, you can actually use it defensively, or I guess technically offensively as well. So if ever your opponent were to use a spell trap or a monster effect on one of your machine type monsters, you could always chain reactivation to equip one of your pieces from deck, making it unaffected by whatever card effect you're worried about. That reason alone might be a reason to run 3 of this, because again, it makes it that much easier to protect your cards. And also, if you don't use it first turn, you can also set it, that way you can play around something like Dark Ruler no more. But at the end of the day, I think 2 has been the sweet spot for me. But let me know down below, what ratio are you guys playing? After the reactivation, I just have a bunch of staples left over. First being 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Really, there's a bunch of extra deck cards you don't need in the deck. You really only need a handful. But at the end of the day, you have so many different engines that really you're just trying to see a little bit of each. So this card not only helps you do that, but of course digging into stuff like Mystic Mine and the next card, Forbidden Droplet, makes it to where it's that much easier to not only add consistency, but even break boards. Like I just mentioned, of course, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet. I think this card is really self-explanatory in the format right now. Not only helping you break boards, but of course using it defensively is always really amazing. And of course, it's also another way to get pieces in the grave, or even send equipped pieces to the grave to trigger their effects. Pretty dang funny that you can do that as well. For the last little bit of staples, of course, we're going to be playing the Called by the Grave. Really amazing right now, especially against Branded in red. And for the last card in the deck, which I still don't know if I like or not, is the 1 Foolish Burial. Obviously, Foolish Burial gets you access to your Enchantress, and in a pinch, if maybe you already have access to the Enchantress or you just really need it, you could dump one of your pieces to the grave. That way you can make Buster. But outside of that, you really don't use it for anything else, maybe to put a machine in the grave for your Therion engine. But all in all, this card has been good because it's a consistency card, but also kind of average when you already have your combos established. So let me know down below if you guys are playing this, or maybe you're playing any other cards to go alongside it. But for me, if I had to cut something, the first thing I'm cutting is this Foolish Burial. I don't know why, but it just hasn't been that insane. That's it for the main deck. Like I mentioned, 42 cards. You could easily make it 40, but I've just found 42 is a pretty good sweet spot. Moving on to the extra deck, I keep tinkering with this. I keep putting new cards in and taking cards out, and in the end, I keep falling back on on a more standard version of the extra deck. First, of course, we're going to be playing 3 copies of ABC Dragon Buster. Pardon the one random super rare. I had to flip through all my cards to try to find this card. Obviously, this is the boss monster of the deck. It's a quick effect discard to banish any card on the field, so that's really, really amazing. And then, of course, it can tag out on your opponent's turn into all the pieces, preventing you from being OTK'd and then floating and generating a bunch of advantage for the following turn, potentially even setting up a double buster on the turn after. Like I said, this is the go-to play turn 1, and typically you can make this fairly consistently. And when you combine it with something like IP Masquerena, this can get really crazy. It's really simple actually. You'll just use the buster to banish a card, and then whenever you're ready, you can tag out, bringing out 3 pieces to the field, giving it that much fodder to use your Masquerena for whatever the heck you might need, whether it's Unicorn, Appaloosa, or even Underworld Goddess. This card is insane. After the Masquerena, we are also playing the 1 Platinum Gadget. This is a staple in this deck because really it contributes to the 1 card buster play and also a lot of combos that actually let you put up a very cool first turn board. After the gadget, we also played the 1 Bujinki. I keep taking this in and out as well, but there are times your adventure package gets interrupted, and if you have a couple pieces in hand, you could always normal summon it, and the token is level 4, I believe, so you can link it off with this, and then not only will you get the pieces effect that you just linked off with, but you can use its effect to reborn that same piece, and then bring out the second piece from your hand. For the next link too, I'm playing the 1 Borg Blocker. I think this card's actually really good. I know some people have talked about cutting it, and you definitely could, but the fact that it's free discard fodder is very relevant, not only helping you get machines in the grave for your Therions, but sometimes you get stuck with the piece in your hand that you really need to get in the grave. So this is just an easy link to go into to help mitigate that. Not only that, but it does recycle the continuous spells and field spells in your graveyard at the end phase. So technically, you could recycle mine. Not saying you should, but it's definitely an option. After that, we just have a good pile of generic good stuff. We have the 1 Cerberus, we have the 1 Phoenix, and we have the 1 Unicorn. These are obviously pretty self-explanatory, just good stuff links that let you break boards. After that, we have the Appaloosa, which I already mentioned with the IP. There's even times you make this first turn without having to go into IP, so that's pretty dang crazy. We got the access code for going for game, and of course the Underworld Goddess for, again, just linking off problematic cards. I haven't really found the need to go into this card, but I have summoned it quite a few times. There are other lines I could have done instead, but let me know down below if you guys are still playing this card. At the end of the day, it's pretty insane, but is it needed? I'm not too sure. After the links, we are playing 2 Exceeds, which I think is fairly standard. One being the Baguska, which is hands down one of the most insane cards in this format right now just because of Despia. Literally at any point, if you get 2 level 2s on the field, if your opponent doesn't get them off the field, you just make Baguska, and it doesn't matter what your opponent has. No amount of branded in reds is going to save them. This card is insane, and it can even play around Dramaturge as well. All in all, this card is a Despia killer if they do not have Forbidden Droplets. And for the last Exceed, we have the Dugarius. I keep taking this in and out as well. It's really just there for draw power, also setting up a lot of OTKs. One other Exceed, which I said I would mention earlier, is Zeus, which I really feel is really good in this deck because of Mystic Mine. Being able to mine the field and then make something like Baguska attack and then wipe the whole field is actually pretty dang crazy. But again, there's so many different things you could cut from this, but I keep falling back on this extra deck because a lot of the times a lot of this stuff does come up. But hey, at the end of the day, let me know in the comment section down below what other cards have you guys been playing. This deck is so versatile with what you can fit into it, and for that reason, this is why I think this deck is so fun to play. So that's it for the deck profile, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Again, if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And also check me out on Twitch. I'll have the link in the description below. I've been trying to stream every Friday, so also you can follow me on Twitter, which again, the link will be down below, where I'll announce whenever I am going live. But just know, Friday nights are typically the night I go live. I've been having a lot of fun testing this deck out online, and I think you guys will too, so please go test it out yourself. And again, if you find something that's really crazy in this deck, comment down below, let everybody know. But until next time, guys, here's hoping to see you on the next episode. Peace.